G'day and Merry Christmas on this Friday Beers and Tools with Andy. Hope you're having a great Christmas day where you are in the world. It's bloody hot here in Northern Territory, and so let's get into it. This Christmas beer is another one of the Bridge Road Brewers. It's called the Chestnut Pilsener. Merry Christmas, Happy Friday. That's nice. What do they say about it? This unique Pilsener is brewed using premium malt and locally grown chestnuts from the hills of Beechworth and Stanley, that's in Victoria in Australia. Its light hop characters are derived from the locally grown hop variety Galaxy. The Chestnut Pilsner has a light flavour profile and distinctly nutty notes from the use of chestnuts in the mash. I like Pilsner beer. It's a light beer, a light flavoured beer. Certainly not a light beer. This is 5% alcohol and 1.3 standard drinks. But that's a really nice, easy drinking Pilsner. They reckon it goes great with roast poultry and seafood. Yes, it would. Actually, that'd be really nice with some fresh prawns. Shrimp, you Americans. Bridge Road Brewers Chestnut Pilsner. On my Spanner scale, I'm going to give that a solid 5 out of 5 Spanners. That is a really nice beer. Rightio, on to this week's tool. This week we have a cheap and Chinese tool, all the way from Banggood in China. I know, probably shouldn't be buying as much Chinese tools, but I did buy this a little while ago. What we have is a Mustool brand. I love the way they give these things names. And it is a combination multimeter and oscilloscope. The part number is M8208. Being an old school electrician, I have a number of multimeters, as you'd expect, but having the ability to look at waveforms in the with the use of an oscilloscope can be particularly handy when fault finding. You don't need it very often, and nor does an average mechanic or home handyman need an oscilloscope. But if you have an interest in electronics, or if you are fault finding something vehicular that has a pulse waveform and you want to be sure that that pulse waveform is correct, having an oscilloscope is very handy. Right, what's in the box? Let's readjust the camera. Alright. Comes in a cardboard box. Comes with a very nice soft case, instruction manual, and leads. Let's look at the actual item itself. As I mentioned, this is the Mustool MT808. It is a multifunction multimeter and oscilloscope. In both AC and DC voltage measuring modes, it will read in 400 millivolt increments on the 440, 400 and 1000 volt scales in DC, and on the AC scale 440, 400 and 750 volts. In the AC current measuring scale, it will read in 40 milliamps and 400 milliamp increments, and has two scales, 4 amp and 10 amp. You don't want to put a lot of current through this one. DC current is also the same figures. When measuring resistance, it will measure 400 ohm scale, 4K ohm scale, 40K ohm scale, 400K ohm scale, 4 meg and 40 meg scale. Capacitance scales, when checking capacitance, it will read in 51.2 nanofarad, 512 nanofarad, 5.12 microfarad, 51.2 microfarad, and 100 microfarad. In the frequency scales, it will measure between 5 Hertz and 5 megahertz with a duty cycle of 0 to 100%. The diode measuring function will measure 1.5 volts drop and continuity less than 50 ohms. Requires 3 AA batteries in the back, has a stand and has an access panel for the 3 batteries in the back. So using the stand only goes to one angle, that's still particularly handy, and the multimeter screen is 2.4 inch screen. Alright, let's show you some of the functions now. So we're currently set to AC volts. I'll take out the probes. What we're going to be measuring is the Australian 240 volt outlet. And of course, in Australia, our standard outlet voltage is 240 volts or thereabouts. The handy function of this multimeter, as I mentioned, is that it can also do waveforms. By pressing and holding the waveform, the R button here switches it over to waveforms. And as you can see, we can measure off the waveform there, which of course in Australia is 50 Hertz. Should also be able to change over to frequency. And there you have it. I get the probe incorrectly. .99, 50 Hertz. Well, there you have it. What a sensational little tool. If you have any interest in electronics or you are investing in your first multimeter and you have an interest in electronics, for $80 on Banggood delivered, $80 Australian, this is a particularly cheap buy. It's certainly not Fluke quality, but for a Fluke multimeter you're paying $700-800 Australian, which is ridiculous. A fantastic little tool. For the price, I can't fault it. For value for money at $80, this is excellent value, and it is easily a 5 out of 5 beers on my value scale. For functionality, just with the quick demonstration that I've shown you there, being able to measure a waveform is particularly handy when fault finding, and a very handy function. So for functionality, although it doesn't measure a high current, it's still 10 amps is enough for most applications. For automotive, you probably want a higher current reading multimeter. A clamp meter is very handy, but for just a simple multimeter to have in your kit, functionality is also a 5 out of 5 beers. I can thoroughly recommend the Mustool MT8208. The Chinese have outdone themselves with this little multimeter. Terrific being able to have an oscilloscope function. Anyway, that's it for this week. I wanted to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Hopefully have some more content for you in the new year. I'm currently on holidays with my wife and visiting our property, so hopefully we'll have some pictures of our property that we've purchased way down south in Australia, sort of the southern area of Australia in Tasmania, the other end of the country for us, and hopefully get to show you some of that in the new year. Merry Christmas, have a safe and happy holiday season, and we'll see you in the new year. Cheers.